What did you evolve to do, and what are you trying to do? And if there's a dissonance there, let's understand it and see if we can kind of somehow improve the situation rather than like, well, there's nothing you can do, it's all going to be a disaster. Well, that's clearly not true, but at least point out where the challenges are.
That was the premise of a book that reshaped the thinking of many cyclists, a manual to help us understand and manage the changes of aging. The Midlife Cyclist set a direction for me that I continue to follow, and in 2025, its author releases a new book. Just off one of London's busiest streets, in an unmarked old fire station, is CycleFit. It's one of the original sports performance centres. For 23 years, amateur and professional bike riders have used its services.
So was this a fire station?
Yes.
I presumed it would be, being called the fire station.
Yeah.
Phil Cavell is a pioneer in cycling biomechanics. He's the author of The Midlife Cyclist and the book you'll probably want to buy when it comes out, The Cycling Addiction.
Essentially, the last one was looking at sort of biology. This one's looking at neurobiology, why we do things when it's going well and why we do things when it's going badly, and the link between the two, and looking at some new concepts and new ways of thinking about people while they're engaging in intense exercise and competition, how they might have more control and make better choices. Because it seems to be that intelligence is actually no insulator from bad decisions. In life, generally speaking, but intelligent people don't necessarily make better decisions. So this book, really, I've been spending my whole 2 years talking to psychiatrists, neurobiologists, team doctors, athletes, current and past, some very, very famous, some you've never heard of. It's not a sensational book, and neither is it an academic book. It's sort of, I suppose it's written in the same tone as this one. This one's, I think, The Midlife Cyclist is a kind book.
It's also the book which ultimately led me to create the Older Athlete series, and more videos are planned this winter. That kind approach just worked for me. Take, for example, something many of us now need, reading glasses.
The same things are happening everywhere in our bodies, just they're not all quite so visible. Everything is just changing and adjusting as you get older. And you either deny it and just move it and stick it in a box under your bed and forget about it, or you try and flag it up and attenuate to those changes and make rational calibrations to your bike and to your lifestyle. And with training, it is very possible for people 50, 60, 70 to perform a really high level. But unlike young people, it always has to be thought about. You don't get the 70-year-old who just jumps on a bike right now and again and wins a race. That ain't going to happen. If you want to perform really well at 60 or 70 or even mid-50s, there's a lot of work that has to go on. So do things that do exactly stress the body in a completely opposite way, which is completely counter to what we were all taught when we were in our 20s and 30s. No, if you want to be a cyclist, you need to kind of calcify your body into this kind of, this kind of like
ride a bike, ride a bike, ride a bike.
Exactly. It's like, well, actually, that's not always true. It's certainly not true for people as they get older. They need to do They need to do different things.
I mean, do you go to the gym? Do you have stuff at home? Do you do weights? What do you do for your strength training?
Yeah, so do as I say, not as I do. I'm an outdoor person. I like to do outdoory things. So the things that I will do lots of paddleboarding because you're standing up.
Right.
And it's very good for your core.
Yeah.
And it's the same for me. It's the same as cycling. I'm getting the same.
It's a good workout for your upper body as well.
Yeah, it's just good for everything, and it's the complete antidote to cycling. My daughter likes to go to the climbing wall, so the climbing wall is really good for middle-aged athletes. Whereas cycling is all linear and controlled, and these repeated loads on the body. Whereas climbing is you're extending these ranges. It's by nature inherently you're moving in a different way. These are the kinds of yes, I'll do a little bit of gym work, but more I will try and find activities that produce the same results, climbing wall, paddleboarding, that kind of thing.
Okay,
sure.
CycleFit is currently working with Pro Team Education First.
It's a working place.
Oh my God. It's like A&E here. So this is how it normally looks. But one of those is with Jules out in Girona. So yeah, he's got all the new riders coming in, women and men, and they all come in and they have to have a new kit, new shoes, new bikes. So he's out there working all that. So he's taken out one of those with him.
Phil says the new book is a development from the Midlife Cyclist, aimed at a wider range and drawing on more specialist advice, but another kind book.
All day we're immersed in trying to make athletes perform and function better. That's just, it goes in by osmosis. It's just in the walls. So the Midlife Cyclist was easier in that sense. I didn't have enough specialist knowledge or credibility or credentials to just write it all just, in one sitting all on my own. So I just reached out to people. And I guess the kindness is that in how I reached out, how they reciprocated, and then how I used them, how they became into the book. Not in a cold way, but they sort of became a cast of characters, I suppose. And that's what I mean by kindness, that I wanted to feel that those people who are on my team, who I talk to all the time, I wanted to have them in the book in a way that when you read it, you felt that they were now your team. You could take their advice, and also kindness in the sense that I wanted people to try and take away something which would help them, provoke them to maybe just change something about the way that they are training or racing in a very positive way. Something they found positive that was useful. And these are difficult subjects. This one is the current book is even more difficult. But this is difficult because you're asking people that they love this sport, they love what they're doing, they're getting older, and exercise is a great thing, as you get older. And you're asking people to modify it. So it is a little bit of, you've got to introduce controversial things. So it's how you introduce them. So people don't go, oh, well, I've always done it this way. Yeah, but you haven't always been 56. So I feel it in myself. I'm no different. It's the way things are introduced and the way things are discussed is really important.
What's clear is how enthusiastic Phil continues to be about improving the performance of anyone at any age, and that's more than just going faster.
And the big thing we were interested in, fascinated with, was the foot, because we understood that the foot functions differently in cycling than any other environment other than possibly skiing. Cycling is a peculiar sport because it's a sport where you actually want to lock the foot. You don't want to facilitate movement. So if you're in every other sport, walking, running, you want to facilitate movement. With cycling, you actually want to block movement. You want to block lateral movement, like skiing actually. And so the idea being that you get the right shoe, and then you get the right level of support by casting the foot, and then you build in some compensation to stop any lateral movement. So if someone's going to produce power, they've got to produce power across the metatarsals, but it's mainly the first one, because that's the biggest one. So you want to make sure they're not wasting any time with the metatarsal trying to find the pedal. With an orthotic, you can just lock the foot in the right position, and then as soon as they hit the power stroke, they're producing power. So there's no loss, there's no delay. Yeah, so you've got the first metatarsal, fifth metatarsal, and then the bridge of the metatarsal is there. And with this person here, they've got what's called supinatus, so the foot in its best neutral position. The first MPJ, the big one, is elevated. So what Mick has done there is fill in that gap. So as soon as they come into the power stroke, there's no like, oh, I need to get that down. They're gone. So the power is, for some people, the power is significant. Not for all people, depends what your foot type is. Yeah, that was the epiphany. Static bodies, dynamic bodies, and then the role of the foot. But evaluating someone's function and ranges of motion is massively important.
And presumably this is where that moulding happens on that sort of thing.
That's where we do a custom footbed. So if somebody doesn't need an orthotic, we'll just mould a footbed for them.
Right.
And that's why we do that there. But if they need an orthotic, then that's actually a proper cast. So the foot is cast on the table. Messy old business. But then you end up with this.
Plaster of Paris.
Yeah, and then you can recast off that. So if someone loses their shoes or they need another pair of orthotics, as long as they've got that or we've got that, then we can recast. Probably lasts 3 years, and then you have to recast.
All of which becomes increasingly important for older athletes.
See, once you've gone through a full evaluation, ranges of motion, someone's told you about all their injuries and their legacy of injuries and problems, and you've done a full functional movement screen, you kind of know what you're going to see. Sometimes you're surprised, but you sort of know what you're going to see. So, you know, you're already thinking down the track about the changes you're going to make and recommend to make that person function better. And that's the fascinating bit, actually.
I recorded a full 30-minute interview with Phil Cavell, so there's more. You can find that in the podcast playlist on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts under Always Another Adventure. The rest of the Elder Athlete series is here. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.